try.
Oh, I can't get on my account again. Fuck it.
Let me try. Okay, how about now? Let's see. Try.
Hey.
Okay.
It looks like it's working.
Yeah,
Alright,
it looks
so-
like it's working.
Testing 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. Let me just. How about now? Let's see. Just wait to hear if it gets to that part. Try.
Its description says soloist in a cage.
Okay.
It looks like it's
Fuck.
working.
Yeah, you're right. I'll change
Yeah, it
that.
looks like it's working.
Testing 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2. All right. So it looks like we're live now. I'll have to test that out later. I guess me restarting it after 8 p.m. worked. Don't know why. It's never been like that before in the history of me ever doing this. So that's certainly something. I'm gonna guess. Make a wild
You
guess
did a few
here.
effects and logic.
I'm gonna make the wildest of
say.
wild guess. If I were to check, probably gonna say I started and stopped a 9-minute long stream prior to this. That for some reason is privated. Let me see here. No, it didn't do that. Okay, I don't understand. YouTube is weird. Okay, hold on. Manga. Fushigi. I'll wait. Sorry. Right. A Wonder Boy. Fushigi. Shounen. So I'll write Manga 1. Fuck, who's the author? God.
Me. I'm the author.
Kazumi Yamashita. I'll write that. Okay. And then my Webtoon. So manga. Yeah, I should just call it a Webtoon, right? Yeah, Webtoon about death. Story and art by...
Hey, Derek.
Yeah, what's up?
What is the butthole god
That
role
was...
in your...
Yeah, that was a role for one specific person who wanted that role for some reason. They were a mod and they made
Okay.
that role for themselves. They left
Okay.
the server ages ago. I think they're in here now on their new account, but
Okay.
why?
Alright,
Is that a role you want?
No, I just
Okay,
noticed that
alright.
there's this plus button, and I was like, and as soon as you click the plus
Maybe,
button for roles,
you
it's
know,
at the top.
maybe if you've paid a little more attention over the years of the server that you're a mod in, you'd know these stories. You'd know this lore, but no.
God, you want me to
Good
remember
thing
this
I've only
server
been here for
lore?
like 2 years.
I forgot for about death. The only character listed on any list is just God. So.
I mean, who's your favorite character? Mine's God.
This is a pretty good character. Because this is story by Sini. I don't know how you actually pronounce it.
And that whole volume was real fucking dark.
Hyeono? I don't know how you pronounce any of these names.
You know, About Death wasn't even like the darkest one. I just chose it because it was relatively lighthearted compared to the other one.
Okay. Alright,
Spelled
so save. Okay.
Hold
so,
up. Relatively lighthearted.
I mean,
Listen,
yeah.
what-
I mean, it depends on your interpretation, but you know, it can be
I
taken
was
that
gonna
way. I
go
guess.
I mean, I know mine wasn't lighthearted, but
I mean, I was debating between About Death and Yomawari Sensei, and the art style for Yomawari Sensei, is probably like better, but it's also like much more sadder. So, like, About Death was what I compromised on.
Compromised.
okay, I have
Imagine
this ready.
compromising on chef streams. I would never. And look where that got us.
Talking
I
shit?
might put it up for a vote next time. Good grief, though.
Okay, a Wonder Boy and about death. And ping, boom, you got the ping. Amazing. And Twitter.
Any pingers in the
I'm sorry,
chat?
X.
Chap, I don't think you need call it X.
Okay.
I'm just
and
saying.
Then, and then
How
the
to turn a
thumbnail.
$44 billion company into a $4 billion company in a year. Go.
The speed
do
run's
this-
insane.
Just do the Seto
Hi,
Kaiba
guys.
method, okay? They should have just been like Seto Kaiba. That's just how that works. All right.
Because if there's intelligence life out there, we'll teach them how to duel.
Yeah, true. Okay. Do we have anything else I'm forgetting before we officially start this?
No, I think we're good.
Where's your kick stream?
It's up. What do you mean?
Oh,
Oh, it
Where,
is.
where do you think it is?
I think
I don't know, I didn't actually check.
Yeah, nobody actually checks, okay? We're live on kick.com. We're live on kick.com/Wolfborg with 1G, okay? 1G.
Are you sure? Because I got told you were live on YouTube and I was lied to.
Well, listen, on YouTube, I can't tell if it has me on 1G or 2G. I don't even know anymore. But we're live somewhere on YouTube, okay? And
It's
Twitch.
1G on my end.
Well, okay. Well, I think it appears as 1G, but the only way to get to my channel from like a link is through like youtube.com/Wolfborg with 2Gs.
Really? Because I get to your channel by first searching for my favorite soccer team, and then I...
Oh yeah, sure.
I scroll down far
Yeah,
enough, you come
yeah,
up.
of course, base. Base.
Yellow base department, they're calling up.
All right.
You know, I did see a Wolfsborg like decal in a car once in the wild, and I laughed.
You laughed because you thought of my name. Fuck you.
Yeah.
It is pretty comedy if you think about it like that.
All right. It's time to begin. Let me take off the pre-show thing and we're going to begin. It's time to begin. We're beginning. The beginning is here.
Yeah, we're beginning.
We begin. All right.
Or is the end?
No. All
Beginning
right.
is the
Welcome.
end.
Welcome, everybody, to another exciting week of the Anime Book Club here on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, all of we're on your grandma's fucking smartwatch, okay? We're there. We're talking about all the anime book clubs. That's what we talk about here. We don't talk about anything else. We talk about anime book clubs specifically.
Yeah, we don't talk about like books here. We talk about anime book clubs.
Yeah, there's not many to talk about, but we talk about them, okay? We know
There's
all
like
the juicy
one-
drama. Okay? All of them. All of them. Now, this week's picks were by Turando here, and we are going to be discussing A Wonder Boy. That's a English title for it, not really an official English title for it, but it's a English title for it. I think it could also be Wonder Boy or The Wonder Boy. The official title is Fushigi na Shounen, which literally translates to Wonder Boy. So that's one that we're going to be talking about, and then we're also going to be talking about a webtoon called About Death. Now, we read the first 4, I think, episodes-ish, and then like some like in-between chapters of About Death, and then we read the first volume, which was 3 chapters of Wonder Boy. So we're going to be talking about those two for this week. Now, before we begin, of course, we're going to go through all of the faces that we got here talking. So let's go, as usual, alphabetically. We're starting with Arimia. Introduce yourself to all the viewers across every platform and your grandma's smartwatch.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, hold on. Let me
Hi,
call
Grandma.
Graham Game real quick.
Leroy's watching this right now.
Oh no.
On 4K RE.
Hi, I'm Arumia, Ari. I like shonen shit. That's about it.
Do you like Fushigi na Shonen shit, though?
We'll get to that.
All right, fair enough. And I am the host with the most, very original. I have all the best opinions and all the best thematic analysis, which I'm sure will be very much useful tonight with a lot of the stuff we read, because both of these are very thematic and deep with like its messaging, and like especially About Death I felt was like a lot more deeper. But you'll see what I mean when we get into it. So I also run this channel that you may be on right now. If you're not here on YouTube, then come on to the YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button. Like the fucking stream. I need the goddamn views. I need this, okay? You can watch this on all the platforms at the same time. Open up some tabs, okay? Get your grandma's computer, smartwatch, or whatever. Load up the stream. Watch them on all of them. What?
Kick still have that really bad exploit where if you just load up your stream in multiple tabs, it
I don't
counts as
think so
different
anymore.
viewers, because
I
there's
don't
no
think so
security
anymore.
whatsoever.
Yeah, I think they stopped that when they started trying to pay people to stream. So
Fair.
Oh, keyword's try.
Yeah. So yeah, that's me. I have based anime takes. You will respect them. They're there. That's that. And now Justin,
Yeah,
introduce yourself.
I'm Justin.
Anything else?
Man, not fucking really.
All right. Fair enough. Very, very based. Shadow Man V4, what do you got for us?
I got a YouTube channel. I also make funny thumbnails sometimes.
Sometimes.
But
Sometimes
who
they're
are you?
the funny
I
thumbnail
like-
maker.
You're a YouTube channel?
Oh
Are
yeah,
you-
I have a YouTube
Are
channel.
you YouTube?
You?
You are the one? All right.
Like sometimes I get some funny thumbnails. Okay, sometimes.
Sometimes they're even based on Breaking Bad. Oh my god. Jesse, we have to cook. And then last but certainly not least, the one who chose the ones that we're going to be reading this week. Turando, introduce yourself.
Hello, I'm Turndale, and I like to read.
Nice, that's all you need to be here.
Oh, okay, no, I thought my microphone was working.
No,
I
yeah,
need to
you're
chip and
good.
share.
Perfectly fine. We made sure Turndo's mic was working before we started officially going, because this is Turndo's week. Okay, Turndo's picks, so we got to have him here. So let's begin the discussion. So I don't know if both of these kind of have sort of similar themes, so we can kind of jump back and forth between the two. I made a Wonder Boy the thumbnail for this because there's a lot more I think to talk about with a Wonder Boy in terms of it as manga content because it's a lot longer. But About Death will definitely have a lot for us to talk about interpretation wise with some of it. It's very short from what we read. We only read the first 4 episodes because those were what were available for free through Webtoon. But Fushigi na Shounen, we read the first volume, which was only 3 chapters, but each chapter is supposed to be its own longer short story because they're all contained. They just have similar themes and connection between them. So, where do we want to start? What were people's initial impressions of either of these? Anybody have very good, very negative? What are our thoughts here? What do we got?
Very strange.
Very strange. Have you
I really like.
Yeah. You really like what?
I was gonna say I really liked About Death, but go ahead.
I was going to ask, who here has read a webtoon before? Because I have.
Me.
Okay.
I
I
have.
used to read them in high school.
Okay.
I dropped off.
I see. Shadow, have you read a webtoon before?
No.
Okay. Yeah.
Huh?
The only real difference between, there's a lot of differences, but they're typically, at least in this case, Korean comics, right? This is a Korean comic, and they typically for webtoons they're long scroll, vertical. You scroll.
Yeah.
They're designed to be read through apps on your phone. So you scroll and they're read from left to right because it's in Korean. And this one in particular, from the webtoons I've read in the past, very different art style than what I'm used to completely, which I could not get into at first, but I think after the first chapter or second chapter, I think I was I understand it thematically, so I was more into it. Each chapter of About Death was its own little. Both of these are all their little short stories contained within an episode or so, or a chapter, and they deal with different kind of things, but both of them seem to deal with religious kind of stuff and God, because God is some kind of God is a figure in both of these. They're the central character in both of these. In a Wonder Boy, it is literally the Wonder Boy guy who shows up in every chapter. And About Death, each episode is about somebody who goes into, what would you call it, purgatory or something, basically has a quick conversation with God before he decides where they're going to go.
Afterlife.
Yeah, the afterlife. Before
No, feel
sometimes
past
they get
episode
reborn.
4.
Well, Justin, I don't know if anybody, probably Turndo. Justin accidentally read past episode 4 because I think he thought he was supposed to read the full first volume. So you read up till, you said what, chapter 20 or something like that?
12, episode 12. This technically episode 5 then.
Right.
Which it was a fucking cliffhanger, sort of. The only way I can describe it without spoiling.
Oh, damn. Yeah. I'm probably going to read more at some point just because they were nice, short, and pretty interesting.
Also turned out the fuck.
What?
That about death shit. That the end of that volume. Jesus Christ.
You've read the full thing before, right, Turando? Or were you trying this out too?
Yes,
for the
I
first
have.
time?
Yes, I have.
Okay, yeah. So you know what happens later on. Our
When
impressions
he
of
was
it.
like,
I was just gonna say, from the first 4 episodes, it's mostly just these self-contained stories about these individual people. With how you're sounding like about it, it sounds like there's more something else that starts happening with God. Maybe I don't know. I don't know how deep you want to
Yeah,
get
this-
into what you want to talk
there's
about.
something going on there.
I
I think it's pretty obvious what's going on there, but it's creepy.
I was being reminded a bit, at least with his first few chapters, of what's it called? Death Parade. A
Yes,
little
that's
bit.
what I thought of immediately.
Where like that one was like a whole thing where it introduces these afterlife games, and then
Does
from what
nothing with it for the rest of the show.
well, because after that, I think it was more focused on like why that kind of system in some ways is bad or something like that. It's been a while since I watched Death Parade, so don't really quote me on what happens at Death Parade. But I just remember being reminded of that kind of stuff where, you know, similar afterlife, like reflecting upon what you've done with your life or like what your views on these things are kind of deal. And like we have so each individual episode, let's start with About Death with some of these episodes. The first one was guy gets into a car accident, and this was like supposed to be quote unquote the first time we meet. There was an episode 0 which just literally introduced the God character for like a couple panels, I think, and then this one was more just
Yeah.
what was that?
Episode 0 is basically like a preview, or it's like
Yeah.
an introduction. So like it's a one shot, so you could kind of see what it's about.
Right. Very, very short episode 0. Did not have music, by the way. All these chapters had music except episode 0, I think. Which I didn't even know Webtoons had music that could. I mean, it makes sense because they're designed to be like run on digital apps or whatever. So I guess it would make sense. So that was interesting to have the music experience.
Yeah, generally most don't have music. This is like one of the few ones that did come out with music. That's why this one was special.
Right. Well, I mean, that's an interesting concept. I mean, I only really had something similar happen with something I read before with I think one of the Boogie Pop light novels, where it has suggestions of music you're supposed to listen to as you read certain parts, because that's what the author was like writing them like to or something like that. Obviously, you can't include that with it, but yeah.
I read a Webtoon where the music would change based on where it was in the chapter. Like it'd be like happy slice of life, and then like someone happened, and it'd be like dramatic music.
It's non-linear.
But it got fucking annoying after a while, and I muted it because if you try to read it, then it just won't shut the fuck up, and it keeps looping.
Based. I will say though, Webtoon, much like many other apps that are more designed for mobile first but have a desktop version, if you're gonna have fucking sound that's integral to parts of your website, have a fucking volume slider on the website version. I swear to Christ.
You would hate Tumblr.
I do hate Tumblr when they did that. I had to install an extension at some point that adds that. I had to do that for TikTok as well if I wanted to view shit on TikTok, okay? Fucking hate that I have to install these extensions to all these fucking things. Listen, I hate it. I hate it because they all do it.
Social media.
They all do it because they're designed for mobile and they don't give a fuck. But they have a browser version. Why would you have the browser version and not do that? Chess.com does that bullshit too. You can't adjust the volume on chess.com. Why? I don't understand.
Checkmate.
It's bullshit. All right, listen.
Checkmate
Okay.
liberal.
But listen, I will say that experience would be a nice little added touch with Webtoons if they added that for the mobile version. I had to, again, use my volume fucking master extension to lower it because it was fucking loud sometimes. But I mean, once I got past that, the music itself, I felt it added a nice little mood for the scenes. But I can definitely see it getting annoying if it's like trying to shift at certain times when you're scrolling. Because I guarantee you, none of them are like programmed to change at certain times when you're scrolling. But I don't know that for sure. So I'm just assuming that because if you're not going to program it to have a volume slider, you're probably not going to program it to do that too. So, The first one's the car accident where he meets God. God's transforming into like, he does this thing constantly where he transforms into like 7 different things mid-conversation. I will say this first chapter was really rough, not because of the story. The translation and the typesetting was real fucking rough in the first chapter especially. I don't know if it was just me.
Just odd.
It was very big, off-center, weird, and like it was just very confusing how they were wording things back and forth to each other. I was like,
I have to go back
I
and look.
saw one comment that was like, "How is this worse than a fan translation?" It's like,
yeah.
like this is it feels so rushed.
Maybe I was so traumatized by
well-
the end of Volume 1 I didn't notice.
Yeah, to be clear, we read it from the official Webtoon website. If you read the translation from that other link from your local video store, it was a different translation on there.
Oh, okay. So then mine was fine then.
So yours might have been a little better. I think I checked that out to see if it was better. I think I saw it was typeset better at least, but I was like, well, I'm just going to read the official one because I want to comment on the official translation because that's officially what we're supposed to be talking about, I guess, if that makes sense. So that was a whole
Also
thing.
has music we comment on.
Yeah, that's true. You have the music if you go on the official one. So that was a whole thing, pretty distracting. Once I looked past that, though, some of it was cool. That first chapter's theme was nothingness and, like, what it really means to have done nothing or, like, given nothing or, like, see yourself as nothing. Because he dies from a car accident, or he's in the afterlife briefly for a car accident, and he says to God, he's just accepting that he's now in the afterlife, and he says that he left his wife or his girlfriend or whatever, and that he's done what he felt like nothing for her. He's left nothing for her, done nothing for her. And the cool thing about that first chapter was the author is using the empty white space that was already present a lot with a lot of the areas, because he can do that with like the whole purgatory area too. But it adds a lot to it as well with the Webtoon format, because they will oftentimes use the like white or like black backgrounds that they'll shift between and the overall background on the website or digital thing you're reading it from to kind of add a layer to it with that. And so for there, God was just saying that basically he was saying that what you did wasn't nothing. This here, this area, this like giant massive white space around you, this is the real nothingness. And just kind of to show him that, like, or at least how I interpreted it was that he was trying to show him that all the little things that you've done are things that she appreciates probably, or like have made a difference in her, or like have actually like this man just thinks that he was nothing or like did nothing with his life, but the God character was trying to show him that even no matter how little it was, you pretty much did have an effect or like did do something with this life. That's how I interpreted it, at least. And it kind of set the tone for like it being very simple with like a lot of the what I thought was the thematic messages that I was trying to impart in these short chapters with each individual character. That's what I got out of it, at least. And we had several stories similar to that. There was one with a murderer character, and that God basically had him atone for his sins by bringing him there, thinking that he was the person who was murdered by the killer, to basically have him say, "What the fuck? I didn't deserve to die like that. What's going to happen to my wife or whatever?" Basically to put him in the person he killed's shoes in the afterlife, before he essentially wakes up to be executed, so that he can like realize the impact of what he did or whatever. Things like that is like the reoccurring trend that happened throughout these chapters. And art-wise, I thought it was like unique for the theme of it, but it was pretty rough to look at a lot of the time for me. I don't know if that's just me though. Maybe it's just because I've been spoiled by a lot of the other webtoons I've read. So I don't know. What did you guys?
Specific style.
Yeah, very. How old is this actually? Because I thought it was pretty old, right? It was like 2012 is how old it was when it started.
Hey.
Damn, 10,
it was
11 years old.
It was published on the site in like 2016, 2017. So this is one of the first webtoons they actually translated and published.
Right, I see.
And like distributed.
Yeah.
My comments about the time, which is more about like both of them, is that they both feel like the same general concept, but written from two different generational perspectives.
Mm.
Like it to me at least, it feels like whether the authors are different, like have a generation gap, or it's just the time periods that they created these. Because the second one we'll talk about, Fushigi no Shonen, was started in 2001. Very different time, as we all know,
Yes.
but like, at least to me, these feel like the same idea, but just written from very different perspectives in time.
Yeah. Yeah, Fushigi no Shonen's especially was like, even when, like, it was written from a certain when it was written back in 2001, that perspective, and then also the perspective of the different generations it portrays within each of its chapters. Whereas like I think About Death, or at least most of the ones that we read, there's pretty much like most of them were just the modern times. It sounded like, at least, or like modern-ish, like 2012-ish.
Yeah.
Whereas like Fushigi no
Yeah.
Shonen, like some of them were diving into like feudal Japan kind of stuff, so it's like pretty far back. Yeah.
So a couple of things I'd like to note about Death was the art style, which was it was completely black and white, but when
Yep.
when the characters return to reality, they colored that in. So that
Yeah.
was a very nice artistic touch.
We as manga readers would probably be familiar with chapters being mostly black and white until like the beginning parts or maybe an end part or whatever. But webtoons, from my experience, most of them are full color, fully, which is like surprising if you're like a manga reader and you're used to everything. But it's all black and white for manga because those are intended to be like printed later, and it's cheaper to print it if it's black and white. As opposed to full color for it. But with webtoons, it's different because it's all intended to be released digitally, at least initially. So it was interesting when I started reading this. I was like, wait, why is this black and white? But I understand it was like a stylistic choice to have that impact of like, this is the afterlife and this is back in the real world, to like see the kind of differences going on with there. So I did think that was interesting at first. It kind of threw me off at first because I was like, wait a minute, why is this black and white? But yeah. Stop dying. Stop dying. How
That's just
dare you?
bad.
How dare you? Shadow, what did you think of this?
I enjoyed it. It was a little strange, but I enjoyed it.
I want to hear what were our like favorite, if any, of these anecdotes that happened in About Death. We had the killer who turned out to, or the person who was killed who turned out to be the killer. The guy who was in the car accident and thought nothing, he's contributed nothing. We had the old man who was God like led him. He was like, I had a nice happy life or whatever. And he basically just waited there the whole chapter until his wife died like years
Wait,
later.
12 years.
He waited 12 years because God just said, all right, whenever you're ready, go into the portal, you'll be reincarnated. He's like, yeah, sure. And he just sat down and waited. So for 12 years.
Actual legend,
Yeah. And that was like, I thought that was weird at first. I was like, why is there this bonus chapter, this old man being like, yeah, I had a happy life. And then that was it. And then I was like, oh, the next chapter continues that by bringing the wife in, and she is like, I can't believe my husband died so soon or whatever, something like that. And then she sees him waiting there for him all those years, and then they reincarnate together. I thought that was sweet.
Husband of the year right there.
Yeah, it's true. There was another one though. There was what was the other one?
The man that was
Oh,
contemplating suicide. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yes,
The one with the gun.
that one was very like, you didn't understand what was going on at first. It took me a bit at the end to realize what was going on, where I think that one was probably my favorite at the time, but now I can't remember the exact. There was like a whole bunch of little Easter eggs they were hiding throughout the whole thing about like different things that are symbolic of different things. He's like, God's like, okay, it's time for you to atone or something like that. I have this gun. It's got 2 bullets for each of the people you hurt. And when I shoot you with it, it's going to be hurt as much as they hurt. And it's like, for him, it's like, very painful. And then it's because you find out towards the end it was because he probably killed himself and left his like family members behind. The bullets are for like the family members he left behind. I forget if it was 2 bullets or if it was more than that. It was probably more.
It's just 2, and they both had the number 17 on them. So it's
For the ages
like
of the ages of the kids or something like that, I think. Yeah. So it was there was that one, and then the one with the murderer. He was showing off a number, and that number was showing off, and it was like, what the fuck is this number about? And that was like his prisoner number. It turned out to be. So interesting little like Easter eggs of trying to hint at what the big message is of the thing, but it's not like trying to overtly state in some of these what exactly happened. In some of these, if you looked in like the comments of the webtoons, the top one was always somebody explaining it for the people who did not get it. So that was because it seemed like they needed that for some of them, because for some of them it was, again, not very direct about what happened. I think for me, I liked the whole, the old man waiting for the wife for 12 years kind of thing. I thought that was a little sweet. I don't know.
It was a nice touch.
It's a nice little thing. You make it sound like it stops doing these later. What happens later to change your view on it about it being
God's
fucked
a
up
cold
now?
motherfucker, okay? That's all I'm gonna say.
Hey,
He seems real fucking nice in the beginning. He had me in the first half, but he's a cold motherfucker.
So you're saying
for a bit.
So you're saying we ended up stopping way too early?
I think so. It feels like that from where the rest of it went.
Oh, damn. Well, if you want to officially, legally read all of it, you have to either subscribe on Webtoon, I think, or you could just go to your local video store, which you read from your local video store. So, yeah.
I think you get like free coins or something on mobile. So, but it's more of like a sign-in thing.
Oh,
so.
that's true. Yeah, you get like a daily like limit for like free reading. So like maybe you sign in like once a day to read a chapter or something like that.
Yep, yeah, and then like they're supposed to update it once a week or something. So that's kind of how
I
it works.
I won't like spoil the twist, but like, man, he's a cold motherfucker. There was like, I just remember without getting specific, there was a dude who was like real young. He's like, he like gives him a life lesson, and he's like, so I get a second chance. He's like, no, there are no second chances. Get through the fucking portal. It's basically how it ended. I was like, what?
Listen, he ain't here to bring you back, okay? He's here to...
I was like, what was the rest of this chapter for? I'm just gonna forget it right now.
Listen, I feel like you just didn't get it. I feel like you had to scroll down to the top comment to really understand it, okay? I feel like...
Episode 12 is a banger.
Yeah,
Episode
12 was good. 12 was good.
Okay. Yeah, I'll
It's
probably
called
check
Superman,
out more of this.
so.
Superman, yeah. I'll probably check out more of this because it was very interesting. The chapters aren't very long to read. It's very interesting to think about some of these, and of course, has a lot of these interesting messages. So I'll probably check out more of it at some point. I'll probably have to look into the daily Webtoon thing because I do want to keep trying to see how the translation goes with the official one later on, although it is not a very good first impression of it. But I'm also approaching it with the lens of like, if this is from 2016 when it was being published on there, probably very early on with them. Like I don't know when Webtoon started to become popular, but I don't know. I have to imagine that the only reason why those translations were as wonky as they were probably because they hadn't like fully blown up yet. But maybe I just don't really know. So, okay. About Death. Anything else we have to like focus on for About Death before we start talking about Fushigi no Shounen? We can obviously jump back and forth, so it's not like we're abandoning this. But anything else we want to really focus on?
Yeah, I think it's honestly just too early. Like I think episode 4 is just way too early to even get a read on the rest of it.
Yeah. This would be the free impression that anybody would be able to get for it before they actually start reading it, though. So I guess it's not unfair for us to judge it based on those chapters.
I'm saying it's unfair. It just takes a turn.
No, yeah, I understand that. Yeah. Do you think is the twist like approaching Death Parade kind of twist, or is it like
I don't even remember fucking Death Parade, so
like again, like I said, what I remember of Death Parade, which is not too much, was that they had those cool little afterlife games that were very meaningful and impactful, and then they kind of abandoned that to like talk more about why that system was
they
in place.
abandoned the entire premise of the show to just wax philosophical for the rest of it, and it was fucking boring.
Damn.
Sorry, that was my opinion.
It's been a while since I saw it, but from what I remembered, I also had that impression. I was not a fan of Death Parade, but I definitely felt those kind of vibes with About Death, and at least for the first 4 chapters, or first 4 episodes, it was focusing on that kind of vibe.
Quickly visit your local video store and, scroll to episode 12, scroll through to episode 12, and you won't regret it.
So just skip through all of 5 to 11 to
no,
get
I
to
mean
12.
still read it, but I mean it's not long.
I understand.
I mean,
yeah, no, I mean
you
each
have
chapter's pretty
favorite
short.
stories. I liked 5 and 5.5. That was really fun. 12 is also another classic favorite of a lot of readers. So you picked a good chapter to end on.
Okay. I will definitely check out those when I get a chance. Miko, what did you think about Death? What was your overall thoughts?
It was alright. I think I liked it more of the 2. I think
Really?
it just alright.
Yeah, I for sure
Oh.
also liked About Death better than
Yeah,
the other one.
I'm of the same opinion.
I had some qualms with Fushigi no Shounen that we'll talk about, but
I had a
What's so
couple as
comedy,
well.
though?
But overall, I think I did really like. So let's get into Fushigi no Shounen. Fushigi no Shounen, aka a Wonder Boy, aka Wonder Boy, whatever you want to call it. Okay, Fushigi no Shounen is very similar in that they are also short stories focused on like specific characters and a god figure, and there's messages involved with what's going on with these things. There are other kind of themes introduced with this one specifically. Most of the chapters I saw were like focusing on like things like greed and like family betrayal, or like some kind of like family kind of connection and like some kind of betrayal or like some kind of like killing or whatever. Except, I mean, there was no killing in the second one. There was hinted some kind of killing, but so each story has its own thing. The first one was about 2 brothers, a whole basically family, towards the like after World War II, I believe, where
That's where my screenshot comes in.
where you sent me a screenshot. I will show it at some point. Where they are starting off on a train. I'm immediately confused by this manga when we start off and he's just like, that's not my brother, who is this? And I'm like, I had no context to who your brother was, but now I'm supposed to be confused at who this person is.
It was a weird start considering how the rest of the series starts, where it's just like, I'm just going to be a person who shows up versus I'm taking over your brother.
Your brother's
This
no longer
tiny
real.
child's brother.
It was just like he shows up and he's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, the parents are just like, "What do you mean? That's your younger brother. Did you hit your head?" And he's like, "Oh no, a week ago, guys from the military shot DDT in our face, which is like insecticide. And now I think I forgot who my brother was, and he's turned into a foreigner."
Yeah, I was so
Turned into
fucking
American.
confused.
I was like, wait, so this is after World War II? Is this like some like
They just
weird,
keep
I think everything's
referencing it.
turning Western kind of thing? And then
They
it had nothing to
keep-
do with that at all.
They keep referencing it too, like
It's
afterwards.
the U.S.'s plan.
In
They
the
converted everyone to
context.
Americans.
In the context of that episode, that chapter, it made sense, but as a starting chapter,
It was very weird.
It was jarring.
We had to have, like, I feel like if we started with any of the like other chapters first, it would have probably, I mean, specifically this section. Personally, I did not like the 3rd chapter. I think that was probably the weakest and, like, for me, the least interesting chapter. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I just didn't get it. The 3rd one was the feudal Japan one with, like, the fox-eyed person.
Okay, yeah.
Fuck that kid.
Yeah,
I was not a fan. I really liked the first 2. Did not like that 3rd one. The 3rd one was just not for me, I guess. I don't know if I just didn't get it or what, but he was like, yeah. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say I ended up reading past that. I think I read 7 chapters. Like I knew where we were supposed to stop, but I just wanted to see more
You're
of what they
interested.
did with the concept. I
Yeah.
wasn't interested. I just wanted to see what they did with the concept.
Okay.
You're interested. I
The
feel like
the ones afterwards, not great. I
Oh,
didn't
no.
quite. I didn't quite like those, but we can maybe talk about those later. But
Okay. I'm showing on stream right now the screenshot that Shadow showed me or linked to us, where it's just him being like, I got shot in the face with this white powder and my brother turned into an American. Oh my god.
which is definitely
Hilarious.
like a kid thing to think about. Like
Yeah.
the chapter, the framing of it made sense for the context of this is this scared child who has been through World War II, and it's just there's so much new happening to him that he just does not understand what is normal anymore. But as a first chapter,
It's just so confusing. I didn't know what it. I thought he might have been crazy at first. I was like, did he just forget what his brother looks like? Is there some like thematic? Like I said, I thought because it was like a post World War II thing, I thought it was going to end up being a whole like thing where like this character for some reason thinks that things are becoming westernized over here now afterwards. I didn't know what was going on with that because he was like really scared of like,
over.
my brother's a foreigner now. Why is he an American now? You're not my brother. And I'm just like, what? I don't know. But then when he's like, I'm actually God and I'm performing these miracles casually or whatever, just to like casually show off that I'm God.
Jed.
But don't worry, I'm actually your brother. Don't worry. I was like, oh, so it's more of just like a weird God figure angle is like here to interfere or shed some light or do some kind of like monkey's paw wish thing or whatever. Because that first story was they're going back home. The two brothers and the father and I guess second wife or something like that. They're going back home because the grandfather is passing away, and with him is a whole inheritance kind of discussion involving all the other family members.
Yeah, that and their house had been bombed. So
Oh yes,
they kind of needed somewhere.
Yeah, they were living at somewhere else, maybe like a friend's or something like that, and they were like, we can't argue with them even though they're mean to us or whatever because we have nowhere else to go. And then they went back home when the father was passing away because the father of the story abandoned the home a while ago. He did not like the family history. They make a point of talking about it when they go to the home, and the symbol, the kanji for the house for their family name Kibu is different in meaning to how it's written than what they changed theirs to. I don't think they ever explained what their name was changed to with their writing, but the original way it's written is like demons dancing or like soul dancing or something like that. And when you hear the history of like the grandfather that's the head of the house, yeah, pretty fucked up.
It's a bit much to drop on you.
Because like the kids are the two brothers are like at like the stream or something like that for a bit. They're like playing outside. He's walking on water for a little bit, being like, "What? Fucking with you? I'm just fucking." And then the grandma comes out. The grandma comes out and is like, "Get back home. What are you doing out here?" And then she's like, "Let me tell you about how fucked up the fucked up things your grandfather had to do to make the millions that we have to have this land here or whatever." I don't think it was millions, but for the time, but it was like they had a lot of land. It's a very big house. They owned a lot of the land there. And that's another reason why the whole inheritance discussion was like very angry between all the kids, because they were like, he got us a lot of money and they came from nothing. And the grandma was just like, well, we started from nothing until your grandfather tricked this place into housing him. He swindled them, conned them, and then murdered them and took their house. I think he said that they raped one of the daughters of the house before kicking her out. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then they're like, yeah, he plays a flute every time he's about to fuck somebody over. One time you'd hear it and somebody was just murdered for the money. I'm like, okay, so this is the type of family that we have going on here. I was like, okay, I understand why the father would want to get away from that name at first, but then you see the father kill the brother over money, and I still am not fully sure whether or not that part actually happened, or if that was God just showing him that kind of image to see how he would react.
Because I thought at first it was supposed to be and here's what your father is actually thinking.
Yeah.
And then showing it, and then that's just like a kind of maybe a future prediction or just a dramatization of what the father is thinking rather than actually doing. But then it's like, no, actually, this family has like some kind of gene or something where they are basically just Cain and Abel, and the brother, the older brother, will always kill the younger brother, or vice versa. Like the brothers will always try to kill each other.
Yeah.
Even if they have no predisposition to do so, because everything we were shown about the father was like, this is a hardworking man who fought to escape the terrible upbringing he had and to raise 2 children outside of that, far away from the influence of of his own father. And then they just kind of like pull the rug out from under you, and then also like at the end it's like, oh, but then also the kid is also gonna kill his brother. Like,
the God character was like, this is what your father really thinks, or like maybe it happened or whatever. It seemed like it was more like a, this is what your father's thinking type thing, but it could have also been like, this is what's actually going to happen or something like that, where he's showing the kid this to see how he's going to react to that side of his father. And the way that he reacted to it was basically wishing for all of this to like stop or to go away. And, God answers that by the God figure. I keep saying God, he's the Wonder Boy, but he's some kind of God, right? And he answers it by having a giant flood basically destroy the house at that time, killing everybody except the 2 brothers, and brings the original brother back. And then he's like, now I have to survive for us or something like that. And then you fast forward to when both of them are very old. They took all the money that they inherited from literally everybody else in the family dying at once. And they've started a massive company. And now that company was being stolen by our main character, by his brother, who we didn't even meet until like the last chapter, I guess, or the last bit of the chapter, who for some reason has like stolen the company from him. And then the brother has like a little fantasy moment where he imagines himself stabbing his brother in the office before he goes back to reality and just has, I don't know, his butler or something drive him home.
Up so comes gravity.
It's like a whole, I don't know how to feel about some of it. I understand it, but some of the messages of it was kind of reminding me of like the whole Attack on Titan, like war is just going to always be a thing. You're not going to be able to do anything about it. And this was just like greed and fucking hatred towards family will sometimes always just be a thing. Fucking each other over for money is always going to be a thing.
It felt less like the cycle of abuse will always continue and more of just a very cynical take on the cycle of abuse. The whole thing just felt not super cynical to me, but just a little more cynical than I care for, which was the main reason I just didn't. It just wasn't for me. I'm fine with some cynical things, but this just felt too cynical in parts. Like that first episode where it's just kind of like, well, I mean, was this really how it's gonna play out? Okay.
Yeah, with that one, I at least I sort of understood it at the very end, where he has the fantasy of killing his brother, but then we go to the reality where he didn't do it. The thing that you get out of that though is that like the rest of your family would like kill each other for this. You might have had thoughts about it, but you didn't actually do anything to fuck over your brother to keep it in the end. You just kind of got fucked over, and it's kind of the cynical view of like, well, you could stop the cycle if you just get fucked over.
Roll over. Yeah. Roll over and take it, bitch.
It's like, I don't know. I to be honest, when I saw the cover of this, the main character boy, the Wonder Boy, I just kept thinking of the Miggy Dolly character. He's got like the he's got the same Steve Jobs drip going on. He's got that like weird, vague, mysterious vibe going on. I did not realize going into this. Migi Dali is like a short, not short, why did I say short? New anime airing this season from the same author as Sakamoto, who it's about two twin brothers who have been adopted from the orphanage as one child who is they're two kids pretending to be one kid. One of them's Migi, one of them's Dali, and they're one person name is Hitori, which is like one person or something like that. So Migi means right, Dali means left, something like that.
When I saw the blonde boy for the first time, I thought of the dude from Berserk, the blonde one, like the
I haven't read
weird
Berserk
angel
yet.
dude.
Oh, okay.
Well, this
I think I know who you're talking about,
weird
though.
artwork. Yeah,
I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah, I didn't know that this was going to be like each one is a short story thing. I thought this was going to be like a continuing narrative. So when I'm reading it at first, I'm like, okay, so this is what's going on with this family. This is what established this family. And they're like, oh, the whole family fucking dies? Okay, so now we're going to follow whatever the brothers do after this, right?
Nope.
And it's like, nope. Skip to when they're old and fucking each other over. All right, next story, Charlotte and Emily. I was like, all right, I mean I like it a little better as that, though. I like it better as like a short story thing, at least, because it gives you like different kind of things that you can do.
I like the concept of this one, of Fushigi no Shounen. I like the concept, I just didn't like the execution of it.
Yeah.
I thought there was a lot of I thought there was a lot of like in-depth like context that you had to kind of understand, though, because like the first one, there's just like a lot of in-depth things about like the reconstruction of Japan. The second one was the story of Charlotte Bront. And then what was the third one? The third one was feudal Japan. But like these are all like historical references and whatnot.
Okay. Yeah. So would you say the second one's a historical reference too?
The Charlotte Bront's biography. If you know the author Charlotte Bront and the Bronte sisters, it was kind of like a historical fiction based on that. So like stuff like The Little Princess, Victorian era authors, right? So something like Little Woman would be something similar. And then like the first one went through kind of like the horrors of war after World War II, right? The whole DDT, that was like a real life thing that happened. But DDT was like, yeah, but they used that both on American soldiers and for the population, because it would kill off pests and whatnot. So it would like save crops, but like afterward they would kind of find out the effects of DDT, but it was to prevent stuff like yellow fever and quinine. So there was like positive effects, and then they didn't find out about the environmental effects until like 40 years later. So there's just a lot of historical context to a lot of these stories behind it. So Fushigi no Shonen is very much historical fiction, and then About Death's much more modern fiction. So I thought that was a very interesting differentiation.
Okay. Well, that's really interesting to know that. I had no idea that these were like, I mean, I knew, it was talking about things like post-World War II and like things that happened in like that kind of time, feudal Japan stuff, obviously. I didn't know the second one was like diving into some direct historical stuff. The second story was Charlotte and Emily. It was Emily, not Amelia. Charlotte and Emily, they're two orphan girls, right? Or like at some orphanage, with like unknown pasts to them, but the Emily girl, I think it was the Emily girl, always like, oh, only all the beautiful girls have to be from
Charlotte.
noble wealth. No, Charlotte was the writer, right?
No.
Yep.
Confused.
I think
I know that much.
so. The dark,
gaslit me.
the black haired girl, I think, was Charlotte, and the blonde haired girl or light haired girl was Emily. All I know is one of them basically found out the other girl was actually a noble, or like some kind of like from some wealthy family, and so she of a different name, Mary Glass was like the name of the other one, and so, or like what her real name is supposed to be. So she basically like tricks the wealthy relative that shows up into thinking that she's her, and that says, just take me away from here real quick. I don't even want to see these people. I don't want them to, talk with anybody to realize what's going on. So just take me away from here, could you? And then they do. So basically she just takes the other woman's like life from her.
Actual identity theft right
Yeah.
here.
I mean, the orphanage was too. The relative was supposed to be sending them like money, like monthly or something like that. And they were sending them like 70 pounds every now and then. And the orphanage was just taking and putting it into stocks, they said. So they were like, we couldn't tell you about your history because the people running this place were just stealing your money. So, sorry. Also, that girl who disappeared years ago, she took your life from you. Sorry.
Actual identity theft.
Where the Wonder Boy comes in with this story, though, is he shows up. I think he introduced himself as like Edward, and originally it seemed like Emily was trying to like hit on him or like wanted like a relationship with him, and like he was more there to like, he seems like he's just showing up and like observing and like testing these kind of people in some way
And fucking with people.
with
he's like a
them.
mischievous god, yeah.
Yeah, with them it was a whole thing where the Charlotte person thought that people couldn't change, or there was a bet that they had, and it was about the nature of people and whether or not they could change. I forget where he stood on it, but he basically like bet her like some flower crown that he gave this other woman. He's like about whether or not people can change, and he showed her this like metaphorical door to her like greatness or something like that, her potential, I guess, and like is pretty much like seeing if she can open it all the way, and telling her that she can do it if she like works towards it or something like that. Like she has the potential for opening the door fully herself, whereas the Emily person wanted to kind of steal that kind of success through like lying. And then after she got into that position, there were rumors about that wealthy relative suddenly dying afterwards. So there's the theory that perhaps she killed the relative to inherit the money.
Murder, you know.
Perhaps. Those are just rumors, though. But that Charlotte person goes on to become a writer. At first, they were a teacher at the orphanage until they moved out to become, what was it, a governess or something like that somewhere? I don't know exactly what that role entails, but they basically want to go somewhere else and outside of the orphanage to work there. And she also became a writer. At the time, she had to write under a pen name as a man because they didn't respect women a lot at the time, I guess. So they had to write romance stories under the pen name of a man, Ian McDonald or something. So they were all just like, man, Ian's a male writer, but he really understands women. And it's like, well, it's because it is a woman, but we can't tell you yet because you guys aren't okay with, wouldn't respect a female writer yet or something like that. So she becomes this like popular success all by herself in secret. And then there's a whole party set up for her reveal or like her success or something. And then that Amelia person, or Emily, why do I keep saying Amelia? Whatever. The Emily person shows up at the party because now she's wealthy and successful. She's been invited and they run into each other. The Charlotte person immediately slaps him in the face on instinct upon seeing her because of how much she fucked over her. And the other one was like, yeah, that's fair. I can't take back what I did. But like she at least sounded like she genuinely wanted to see her again. And that she just couldn't take back what she did after all the years. So she understood why she slapped her. And then like the door opens and the Wonder Boy shows up, was like, oh, I guess I won the bet about like how people don't change or something like that. I was confused because I was forgetting the nature of the bet. I don't know if it was,
I was too.
It sounded like the bet was her, Charlotte, saying people don't change, and the God person saying you're wrong, people can change, or people can change. And then it didn't seem like they changed towards the end. They just went back to each other. But I don't understand. Maybe I was just misinterpreting what the change was supposed to be. Maybe the change was in terms of like their relationship with each other or circumstances. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't fully get that one. It's not like the Webtoons where there was a comment explaining it. There was no comments on these chapters, so I didn't get a lot of that. There's no official release of this either, so we had to go to our local video store, our Wonder Boy store. Okay.
I thought chapter 2 was very interesting. I could kind of tell the author or the manga creator took some creative liberties, because the first part is like a modified version of The Little Princess by Francis Burnett Hodges, where like there's a little girl at an orphanage, and then a rich, wealthy relative found diamond mines in Africa, came to pick her up, and that was like that story, but like they modified that a little bit. And then Charlie Bront, writing under a pen name, is the real life story of Charlie Bront and her writing Jane Eyre, if you guys ever read that. So I
Okay.
thought a lot of this is steeped in historical context. So it's kind of cool.
I see. Like I said, I liked that one too. I was just kind of confused at like the nature of the bet, because I think that was like supposed to be crucial to what was going on with a lot of the stuff in the works. I also couldn't tell how much of what was happening was through. I mean, it was partially most of what set off this, the major events was the god fucking with them, where he basically put the Charlotte girl to sleep, showed her this like vision of like the door to her potential, or like other past great female characters and stuff like that. And with the Emily person, he was saying, go check the orphanage storage room or something. Just go check the office in the orphanage. And she was like, okay. And then she goes, she's like, my history unknown, her history, she's wealthy, oh my god. I was like, what?
Capitalism strikes again.
We just keep this kind of big secret just written down in like some book in the office anybody can read.
Look,
all
we
right.
need a source for this, okay?
When
they ask about this, it's important.
The god character kind of sets up that whole scenario as part of like the bet, where like he understands doing that is gonna make this Emily person try to fuck over the Charlotte person, whereas the Charlotte person is gonna try to like make her own way, because now she's had her potential wealth just stolen from her, so she has to like reach her potential, and the Emily person has to kind of realize the error of like what she did to like forgive herself for what she did or something, or to like to make up for what she did. But I don't know, I feel like there's a lot missing when we introduce that, and then we're just gonna end the chapter. We don't really like, I don't know if it doesn't really feel like we see like the result of whatever that is. So,
yeah, it just ends with like a slap, and it's like, well, I'm glad we get to see each other again.
God was just like, looks like I was right again. I was like, about what?
The ending of that one I didn't
God
really understand.
wins again,
it's like,
baby.
It's like the girl the blonde was like, I really wanted to see you again, and I'm so sorry and stuff. And it's like, but you could have resolved this years ago. Like, you could have
an email.
You could have brought her with you when you called the guy to pick you up. Or if you felt bad like a year or two later, you could have come back and gotten her. Or you could have sent her
fair, she would have known.
You could have there's a lot of things you could have done, which I guess we will have to assume was just because she didn't do them because she felt guilty. But that's just an assumption, because we just don't get anything about it. But these are episodic bites, so you can't really get too much.
I was reminded a bit about the very beginning of JoJo with Dio, because for those that aren't familiar, the beginning of JoJo is Dio's father has stumbled upon Jonathan Joestar's father's like wagon as it's crashed or something like that, and he's knocked out. And at first the father's trying to rob his body, because he's like, he must be dead, he's not gonna need this or whatever. He's like some deadbeat, like drunk or whatever, so he's trying to rob him at first. Jonathan Joestar wakes up and thinks, oh my god, you saved my life, thank you so much, how can I repay you? And the guy's like, oh yeah, of course, yeah, I totally saved your life. Oh, you want to give me that? Oh sure, yeah, I'll accept that as a gift. Yeah. And they basically, when the father passes away years later, the Dio's father passes away, he tells Dio and he was a piece of shit father to Dio, it seemed like, because he was like a very drunk and abusive. He was basically like, well, when I die, go to this place. I helped him out before. I'm sure he'll take you in. He's rich. Yeah, good luck, or whatever, something like that. He goes there, and his whole thing as soon as he gets there is similar to his father's nature, where he's just trying to steal the wealth of this house. And the way he's doing it is by fucking over Jonathan Joestar as soon as possible. He shows up to the house. He's much more well-mannered than the Jonathan Joestar character. So he's immediately like being looked at in a good light by the father. He's trying to pretty much like make him the favorite son. Kills Jonathan Joestar's dog, makes it look like an
Fucks with his
accident.
girlfriend.
Yeah, kisses his girlfriend before Jonathan Joestar, so that he could steal the first kid. He basically is doing everything to fuck him over and steal his life to eventually steal his riches. And later on, when they grow up, he's poisoning their father, making them think that it's his medicine, so that he can kill the father faster and steal the inheritance and something like that. He's like has this whole
It's like
plan
2 episodes,
involved.
by the way.
It's only like 2 episodes too, but it was pretty
Like,
interesting
done
for
very
like the
quickly,
beginning
yeah.
of it. So like, it's a whole thing where he's trying to like steal his wealth, and I think it is in like a similar kind of time period too.
Look,
As
we
is
have to
with this
get you
chapter.
to read more Victorian manga rather than just JoJo.
What do you mean?
I'm just saying that
It's
I was
looking
reminded
for
of that.
Victorian
To
manga.
read Victorian manga.
Joe.
Yep.
Listen,
But yeah.
But yes, that was what I was reminded with for this. I was reminded of that a little bit because of the whole fucking people over for their inheritance kind of thing, which
Listen,
happened for
that's
2
just
chapters.
That's just a Victorian trope. That's just a
Yeah.
Victorian.
Well, it happened in the
That's
one.
what it is.
So it happened in the chapter prior to this too, where they were just trying to fuck each other, literally murder their brothers
That's
for
it.
the inheritance. You know, so it's,
That's just the Cain and Abel instinct.
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be a recurring thing in all of these, and then the third one was just like, the third one was a whole thing. Again, I did not like a lot of it. I was just so checked out on the third one. I don't know if it's just because of the setting. Feudal Japan settings typically don't interest me or what. He was like a murdering fucking pillager dude who was like, yeah, but I want to save the kids though. But
yeah, that one I didn't understand because he's like, I'm going to pillage and murder everyone in these villages. I'm going to go out of my way to do this, but I'm doing it to save the kids. Because that's what it felt like the motivation was to save the kids and, maybe, get some of the stuff from the towns, but like, mainly to bring these kids to their village to raise them.
And his motivation for it was a priest at one time told him a story about how one kid was sacrificed and then buried, and even though he was sacrificed and buried, he was like smiling as he did it, and the land prospered for many years afterwards. And it's alluded to later on that person who was sacrificed was the Wonder Boy that we talked to later on. He's some kind of version of that kind of thing in the after, is what he says at least, or like hints at least. But that whole thing, I'm just looking at
I
that
think
like
he hinted at it. I thought he like literally
I
asked
think he
him.
literally says it.
I think
but
that
was
just
him.
still.
yeah, but I also don't know if he was like just fucking with him because he tends to do
That's
that.
not a problem. Untrustworthy narrator.
Where I'm just like looking at all that and I'm just like, you took that the whole kid being sacrificed and I guess just assume that meant all adults are trying to
Adults are evil.
be evil and sacrifice children.
Hey,
And then you go to these villages and just kill all their parents and take them away, and some of the people you're working with are like, we're gonna sell these kids as hostages, and it's like, what?
You kind of made your own problems. Like,
Yeah. Because like they made it out at first like, oh, he was just killing for food or whatever, but like he was killing people who were trying to chase after him after he stole from them. But I never felt bad for that guy. I didn't feel anything towards this guy. I just was like, he just go around killing people and stealing kids and acting like he's a hero. I don't understand why I'm supposed to be cheering for it. And they bring out these comically evil villagers that are coming to save the kids. They're like, all right, we have to save the kids because they took the Lord's, like our Lord's son. But our lives would be easier. We just assume that they killed them all and just kill literally everyone and the children because we don't want to fuck with them, keeping them as hostages. And it's like, well, if you're going to make the heroes also comically evil, obviously, like, I'm not going to... it's trying to make you feel like our main character is the hero. He doesn't feel like a hero at all. He's the bad guy. So I don't know. I don't get it.
yeah, that one kind of felt like a folktale. But I still just didn't quite get it.
So, Turno, do you know if it was like based off folktale or like any kind of like direct historical thing, or is it literally just a feudal Japan story?
I think I would assume this is a folktale because of the fox-eyed Torakichi.
That's
At the
true.
beginning, it shows a figure of the Bodhisattva. So this is like Zen Buddhism because like
Yeah.
Buddhism was slowly going into Japan at the time. So it's really a lot about redemption. Like, certain actions that you take in life will carry on to the afterlife. So that's kind of like he's showing his kindness, but he's also like not quite a very good person because he's a bandit. This is feudal Japan after all, where
Yeah.
during the Warring States period. So you have like the village and whatnot, like those are the peasants, you have the lord, and then these guys are kind of the bandits trying to live their own life. But he's also like trying to show him as not completely evil as well. Like that's where the kids come in, and like that's the whole idea of redemption. And so at the end we kind of get like that Admiral Yi story where it's like those who seek death shall live, and those who seek life shall die, or whatever. And then that's kind of where you see him peacefully passing away, and he says, "This is the face of a person who's lived." And so it's like to show like the life of one of these bandits living during this very tumultuous period in time of Japanese history.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I really enjoyed and I was really like into the first two stories with how they were structured, but the third one I was just, I don't know. Maybe it was just like at my core reading it, I did not get it, but I tend to not like a lot of kind of older like Japanese kind of base setting stories. I don't know exactly why. Maybe it's just because there's not a lot, I think, that's interesting for me to do with some of those periods in terms of like some story. I could understand some things that you can do with them, but I don't know. With some of it was just like ride horses around, kill people, raid this village, take these children, and maybe use them as hostages if the other people don't feel like just killing all the kids anyways. I don't know.
For me, I don't have a lot of historical context because we just did not learn about any of that in school, and I've only learned a bit since then. So I just don't have a lot of
Fate
context.
Grand Order.
through media. So I don't have a lot of context for like what the time periods are, what's happening, what the culture was like back then. But also in general, I just don't care for anything historical that's past like the 1850s.
Right.
In any time period, pretty much, like in any region. I just don't really care for anything that historical. So
I see.
Yeah. Fushigi no Shonen is very historical. Like I liked Fushigi no Shonen because it covered a lot of like Eastern like historical events. So it'd go through like Russia, Siberia, like some of the more contemporary like European history, but from a Asian perspective. And then About Death has a lot of Korean cultural influences about like urban life because it's a Korean webtoon.
Yep.
So yeah, it's definitely a little bit more steeped in historical context.
I see. Now, Aramia, you've read a little bit past where we read for Fushigi no Shonen, and it sounded like you had thoughts. What are these thoughts?
Oof.
Share your thoughts. Sorry.
okay, remind me what chapter 4 was.
We read 3 chapters. I don't remember 4 because I didn't read 4.
Chapter
Oh.
4 was about a boy who was singing, like the voice.
Okay. Yeah, so I read that one, then I read 2 more after that.
Socrates,
One was about
I like that one.
And then the third one was
Kama and Dimitri. So that was Siberia.
Yes.
That was the
Okay.
lighthouse.
That
You read one of the worst volumes. I think volume 2 was rough. That's why I stopped at volume 1. That was a deliberate choice.
I did not like volume 2 at all. Like I already didn't like volume 1, but I was like, okay, I don't like this, but it's not for me. Volume 2, I was like, I don't like this, it's not for me, and I really just do not like this.
Yeah, no, volume 2 is the worst volume. That's why I only made everyone read 1. Like 3 and 4 are fine. 3 and 4 were good.
What are some reasons why it was really bad?
Merciful.
I'm gonna go through them. Don't worry.
All right, good.
The first chapter of volume 2, I guess, was the singing guy. So volume 2 decides to take this weird shift suddenly, because like it's the beginning of the series still, you know, like we've only had a couple of episodes so far. I keep calling them episodes, but you know, chapters.
Yeah, webtoons. I get confused too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
and they decide to be more about the god character changing and him developing feelings, but not really understanding like what these feelings are. Basically, him trying to grow as a person, but not intentional. He's just unintentionally
Improving.
not improving, just kind of like going through life.
Changing.
It's kind
He's
of
observing
things
more
are
things. He's fucking with more things.
So basically, he meets this boy who sings, and it's set in another post World War II setting where their houses have been bombed and stuff. But it goes through his life, growing up in I'm pretty sure he was still in Japan. But basically, he just has this beautiful singing voice, and he's not the most attractive boy, but his voice is just it's just angelic, and it
It's water
shows
ASMR.
it shows through his life, up until like maybe late 20s or so is what I assume. Just going through different stages where he goes and like he meets this girl who he really likes, and then I'm pretty sure she leaves him for another guy, but I think he's like working at their farm or something because she's still like there, but she's shown with another guy. So basically, his life just does not go great, but he's still like kind of happy with things, it looks like. And the god character is just pissed. He is just like, I do not understand you. You have the voice of an angel. These people should be bowing down to you. I'm going to like throw you in the middle of like Carnegie Hall and make them listen to your voice and recognize you. I want the entire world to know your name.
Bro, God be
I'm
like,
serious.
this is my Oshi, okay? This is my
I'm
Oshi.
serious. Like,
I know God can be this down bad. This is
so
impressive.
he literally like throws him in the middle of this giant concert, and everyone starts weeping and stuff. And I think that's more of like a dream sequence or something. It's not quite sure if that actually happened. Like a lot of the things in this, you know. But then like the boy just dies like as soon as he does that afterwards, because he's just like, I've lived a good life, you know, like I've always been sickly, but I didn't need the recognition, you know. I was happy with how things were. And the boy dies, and the god character just starts like screaming, just like, I knew you were human, but I loved you and stuff. It's like, what was this chapter?
What the fuck?
Why would God go down bad?
What the fuck?
Yeah, it was interesting. Then the next chapter.
Socrates.
No, go on.
No, go ahead. I just wanted to remark on that.
Yeah, go for it.
No, go. I don't have anything to say. I just wanted
His
to say
remark was
Socrates.
literally saying Socrates, which is the name of the chapter.
Okay, yeah. So the next one is Socrates, where the god guy is like laying on a statue of Socrates. It's actually really pretty, like first like chapter artwork of him just laying there on the statue. But he starts hearing something and he gets transported back to the week of Socrates' execution, because Socrates was executed.
You don't say.
And basically he's just like, I love your work. I love like your philosophies and stuff. I love mulch. But I want to know, like, why are you okay with dying? Because you have so many ways to escape your execution. You have so many fans and followers who are actively trying to get you to escape. They will help you, and yet you just lay here in this cell. And they have a bit of a chat, and the god guy decides to show Socrates like all of these things throughout the universe, like all of these things throughout future history that happen. And Socrates is just like, oh my gosh, why won't these people just talk to each other? They just need to talk. And it's talking about like genocides and stuff. And it's like I think we would need a bit more than just like a sit down meal, Socrates. But that's
Socrates,
cute.
there's some layers to
Um,
this.
So then he throws him into modern day Japan.
You fucking
this part-
idiot! What have you
This
done?
part was
We got TikTok.
again. This part
Oh,
was
no.
again like another like somewhat cynical part where it's just like they drop him in modern day Japan and everyone around him is just like, get away from me, you creep, you old pervert. It's like this. It's just this old man that's like just. He's just trying to like ask you, just like, hey, and you're like,
What am
get
I?
away from me. And the god guy's like, wow, you're lucky they even looked at you. And it's like this is like 2003ish, I would assume, because this started in 2001. So I would assume it's around that time period. Like, not like what. You really have like, is it that bad in Japan that nobody would talk to you or something? Like what?
Yeah, we
It's
know
not like that in
Japan.
America, like
Japan typically, historically, has always had nothing but disrespect for elders, right? Always.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, Japan, you know, the country that's very hostile to anyone and like what, okay, but then he finally finds one person who's willing to talk with him because this entire chapter, Socrates is just like, why won't people talk to me? And the one guy, he's like, oh, hey, just watch where you're going and stuff. And then he walks off, and the god guy's like, wow, you're really lucky. He stopped to talk to you because he's about to go kill himself. It's like, what?
Jesus
What the
Christ!
So then,
That guy's about to be an About
they
Death
warp-
episode. What the fuck?
They warp to where the guy is, and
It's all
he's
connected.
on this high rise. And apparently he was working at this company where he was in charge of, I guess he was like HR position or something, where he was in charge of firing people. And
Oh.
the company had a ton of losses where they just had to keep firing people to stay
yeah.
afloat. And he was like, I did my job. I did exactly what I was supposed to do. I let the company stay afloat, and they're still afloat. But then it was his time to be axed. So he felt betrayed by like the CEO who he was best friends with. And
No.
because I guess that guy was the one who laid him off. Who lays off the people who lay off people, you know?
Was this the company of the two brothers from the first chapter?
You'd think. It's actually the two
all
brothers again.
It's their company. That's
no,
just how their
it's
HR
their
department
children.
runs.
It's
Oh,
their
okay,
children,
okay.
actually.
Yeah.
But just as he's about to jump off, because suddenly Socrates can't talk to him anymore. He can't see him. He gets a call from the CEO who's like, hey, you want to come by for drinks? You know, just talk. And the guy is just so relieved. He's just like, oh my gosh, you want to talk to me? Yes, I'll be over there in 5 minutes. Don't worry. So, like, he doesn't even say, like, hey, I'm so sorry about the job. You know, I wish things would be different. But hey, I'm going to try and find you a job somewhere else. We're going to get through this, okay? I'm going to help you. He doesn't do any of that. He's just like, hey, you want to come over for drinks? And the dude's like, yeah! So he just climbs down from the high rise.
In that state, anything cheers you up. I would know.
I hope it worked for him, but like that. So they end it there, and they go back in time, and Socrates is like, "Well, this guy quoted my philosophy. So clearly,
I'm kind of hot
I
shit,
am being
you know?
remembered past death."
Yeah.
It does end on a good line where it's like a good exchange where the god figures like, well, just because he remembered something that you said in your life doesn't mean that you lived on past death. And Socrates is like, well, you're immortal, so when you die, let me know how death is. You've never experienced it, so they worded better than that, but that was a nice little exchange.
That whole
And then
chapter,
it
how you
just ends with
described it,
him
that whole chapter, how you described it, is just having me picture Socrates being dropped onto modern day Japan, your boy Kong Ming style, where they just like drop him at some club dance, and he's like, "Do you want to talk to me?" And the girl's like, "Get away, loser!" What? It's like what? Like when I'm hearing you describe it at first, it sounds like the author just can't socialize with people in real life, and they think that's how it is for everybody.
Yeah, that I found that part very odd. But then then of course the chapter ends with Socrates taking the poison and dying. And again the god guy is sad. But then the next chapter. Oh, do what?
I was gonna say, I wonder if a lot of the weird exchanges when he gets to modern Japan, where it's like some people don't want to talk to him or just like get away, and others are like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" or whatever. Like maybe it's a whole thing about like the different types of people that are more philosophical, I guess, like or like think about some concepts that he like thought about or whatever. Like because like maybe some types of people are just like, of the modern age are just like. We don't bother thinking about that kind of bullshit, okay? It's not that deep. We're just trying to have fun. Where, like, somebody who's probably about to go kill himself is probably more thinking a lot about, like, life stuff, So, I don't know. I don't know if maybe there's that kind of symbolism going on, maybe.
Look, it was just good to see a familiar face, okay? That's all I could say.
The next chapter, though, that one was... The last chapter that I read was the Serbian one. That one felt very much like a folk tale, but it was the worst chapter to me.
Oh no.
Was it a folk tale, Chanda?
Probably. It was like about like Siberian tribes and like one of the last Siberian tribes on the peninsula or something.
It felt very much like one because it was basically just a quote unquote love story. I find it hard to call it one. So basically, it starts with this 14-year-old girl running away from a wedding, and she runs into the god guy, and he's like, "Hey," she's like, "Please take me away from here. I do not want to get married. Please, I just want to run away." And the god guy's like, "Well, tough luck." And her bride to be or groom to be comes up.
I remember English slowly.
Shut up. And I'm trying to speedrun this because this one's short. But he comes up and he's like, "Hey, you can't run away from me." And I think he slaps her or something.
Alrighty.
And he is apparently, I forget if he said he was like 28 or like 34 or something. It was a wild age gap.
Jesus.
And so he drags her back, and I think a few nights later, maybe a few months, maybe a year or so, she decides, "I've had enough of this. I'm going to run away." So she grabs all of her supplies. She gets a little cart, and she runs for it with a sled. And she runs into the god guy, and he says, "Oh, looks like your husband's about to catch up to you. If you really want to leave town, you will leave in 10 years. So if you actually want to leave your husband, you're going to wait 10 years, and then you'll be able to leave him." And it's like, what the fuck? What?
Thanks, God.
She's
my
like,
hopes and dreams.
She's like, "What?" And he's like, "Well, your husband's about to catch up to you, so you don't have any chance of getting out tonight. But if you wait 10 years, then you will." And she's like, "Okay, I guess I'll wait 10 years." Because by then it was obvious that her husband had spotted that she was gone. So she's just like, I can't believe I gotta wait 10 years, but sure, I'll wait 10 years for the perfect moment. So she does. 10 years comes, and then she makes another run for it, and God Guy stops her again. Also, I may be misremembering. Maybe that was the first time she ran away when like we caught her. But anyway, regardless, he catches her again when she is running away 10 years after being married, and he's like, "Well, you didn't get far. He's gonna catch up with you. But if you really want to get away from your husband,"
You.
I forget what he says that time, but he's like, "Look, you will know when you want to actually get away from him, okay? Just wait
What?
until then, because if you don't actually want to get away from him, you won't be able to get away from him, okay?"
Hey, hold on.
So
Just
she
real quick. Am I following it correctly? Is she just stuck in an abusive relationship and is trying to find the right time to leave him?
No, it's not it's not abusive, okay? It's
Oh,
just
okay.
it's just a huge
I'm sorry,
age gap
metaphorically, I
where
guess. But...
he makes her do all of the chores and all of that, and he
Oh,
also
no.
doesn't speak to her except very tersely. He also slaps her on occasion.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's a normal marriage. I see.
Normal marriage.
Yeah.
How long ago?
So
Serbian. This is
it's
Serbia.
so it's a whole thing where they're just trying to like figure out the right time that she can escape this marriage.
Well, so eventually the chapter ends with both of them are very old, and she sees the god guy again, and she's like,
Oh.
I could escape, but my husband would be left alone.
Oh,
And
okay.
her husband walks down to see that she is packing to leave finally, and they're old. Both of them are old. And he's like, "Hey, I'll send you off." And she's like, "Oh, that's so sweet." So they get ready to leave.
I don't like the
Her-
implications of.
I'm a little
and
scared.
so he kicks off the sled for her, and she's sent on her way, and she runs into the god guy again. And he's like, "Do
swear to
you
God.
really want to leave?" And she's like, "No, I actually don't." So she just turns back around and goes back to the house to live out
What?
the rest of her days with this guy in the middle of nowhere.
And then he beats her
And
to death.
and that's just how the story ends, where the both of them die out there in the wilderness. Literally no outside contact. The only way they got supplies was some guy was airdropping it for them.
Oh.
And
It's
that
the
guy
Fortnite
was
bus supply drop.
also that guy was
Oh.
also like, "This is the last delivery I can ever make for them because I am also getting very old. So I guess the whole tribe will
starved
die
to
with
death.
us."
So it's just like soloists in a cage. I see.
It was just such a weird chapter because it's like I don't get what the point of it was. Like, it wasn't romantic because you have it between a child and a man. And it also wasn't romantic, even if they didn't have an age gap, because you never saw them being romantic. You only saw the guy in a more traditional husband role where he just makes her do all of the chores and stuff and never shows any affection to her. He never even talks to her for some of the parts. Like, he does talk to her a bit, but like at the end parts where they're old, I think she mentioned that like he hadn't spoken to her in months. So she was gotten into a habit of
We're
talking
in
to
the
out
same
loud.
house.
Yeah. No outside contact. She had gotten into a habit of talking out loud because he never spoke to her for months.
Yeah.
And it's just like I even if there wasn't the age gap, it's still not romantic at all. There's no affection between them. So I don't understand. And the god guy was barely in the chapter just to say like, "Oh, you don't actually want to leave this abusive guy." And it's like, what was the point?
Listen, this sounds like it was a folktale about Stockholm Syndrome. Listen, you've been there for so long. You guys are both old now. You're really going to leave him. You know, he's been there for you all those years, abusing you all those years, but he's been there for all those years. Like, it sounded, the way you describe it sounds like basically a whole...
Yeah, it very much sounds like a folk tale where it's just like these two were in an arranged marriage and they didn't like each other and the girl kept trying to leave, but then she found out she actually did love him, which is but like I don't see the point of adapting that for a more modern tale, and I for this, it did not add anything to the story and just made the god guy look even worse.
I always just kind of wonder what those kind of things, you know, again, like with the last chapter, with what I was thinking might have had with the Socrates thing, where it's like maybe there's some kind of more symbolic thing that you're supposed to look towards as opposed to what's literally happening, but it still kind of gives you a weird feeling, maybe. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, the way you describe it, it sounds like if I read it, I'm gonna be like, what was the message? What was I supposed to learn?
Yeah.
Was I supposed to learn if I like suffer with something long enough, I'll be okay with it? I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, capitalism.
Yeah, true. That was the real
Yeah,
message.
Capitalism
In
will
all the
find you
chapters,
even in the wilderness.
he keeps bringing up, you know, greed as a theme. Obviously, that's at work here too. The chapter 3, he's stealing the kids to sell them as hostages. Whatever, Socrates is obviously being ignored because of how capitalistic things have become over the years. I don't know.
Like, I didn't like the other 2 chapters in volume 2, but the last chapter was just it made no point to me. Like the other 2 at least were more experimental in how they were presenting things and just like kind of like pretty original, but this one just felt like they found a folktale and just kind of threw it in this manga for just no reason, at least to me.
Listen, you just don't get it, okay? You have to find the
I don't.
webtoon. You
Please
have to find the
tell me.
webtoon comment explaining it. All right, you have to find it.
Please send it to me.
I'm gonna become a Fushigi no Shounen analysis channel. I'm gonna go through each chapter. I'm gonna go through the deep historical and philosophical and symbolic, thematic, whatever context there is for all these things. Don't worry, I'll explain all of it, including that Serbian love story about abuse. Don't
Do
worry.
it, coward.
Listen.
You would coward.
Do it.
So, glowing recommendation for volume 2, it sounds like. It sounds like it's a glowing
Yeah.
recommendation.
That's one of the series.
Well, the good news, at least, is that because this series is like short stories and the only reoccurring character you have is the god character, it sounds like you could just skip volume 2 and just go to volume 3 if you wanted to. Because, like, I mean, you made it sound like in one of the chapters the god character was starting to have feelings, but it seemed like maybe it's more just in the context of like that one chapter. Like it's not like this is a series about the god character over each of these stories learning to become or value humans more himself, or like become a human himself. It sounds like, you know, he'll show up to like
become human,
set the course of like the story or something, or meddle with the course of the story that's supposed to be like a historical like reference to something else or something, but that like this isn't like something to where he's probably gonna, maybe towards the final volumes he might have some kind of little arc, I'd imagine, but with this kind of story it doesn't feel like something to where like I feel like I'd be comfortable with saying if you wanted to, you could skip a volume of this because of the nature of it. But maybe I just don't know about how it is later. Maybe Turando can shed more light about how that kind of vibe is.
No, you could skip around and pick which chapters you want to read. Same thing with About Death. They're both like whichever chapters you want to read, you're welcome to skip around because it's like it's an anthology, so each story's like separated. Although I will say it does get slightly better to read around volume 3 and 4. So volume 2 is probably one of the worst volumes to continue off of. But there's just some interesting stories. There's like Shackleton, the race to the North Pole. You get some more modern stories in volume 3 and 4 that are kind of nice. Some futuristic ones. And this is I think definitely more experimental of a manga just because it just tells a lot of short stories.
Yeah.
And so on.
So it really is just like JoJo, where if you really want a good experience, you skip the parts that are shit, right?
No.
What do you know? You've never seen an episode of JoJo. Name one JoJo.
How do you know?
Name one JoJo.
JoJo.
Name
JoJo
one
Star.
JoJo.
It's actual name.
JoJo.
It's not an actual name.
You know, JoJo is a shortened version of both their names,
Joe-
right?
Joe Mama.
JoJo Siwa.
That's not.
But yeah, like with JoJo, everybody, all the fans are like, "Yeah,
Terry
JoJo's great,"
Crews.
but also the first part sucks. So yeah,
Also, I think the first two episodes of part 3 or part 1 are pretty good.
what's what?
But like afterwards,
I
it kinda
tried to watch
dipped down a
one.
little.
You trying to watch?
I tried to watch the first season and
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Yeah, after Dio does his stuff with like the mansion at first, the
Yeah.
next episodes in part 1 are all dog shit. Okay, you can you can skip to part 2, and I mean, again, my recommendation is always just part 3 because that's where things start getting into what is really like JoJo. But this is not about JoJo. Okay, I only mentioned it
For
because of like
now.
I only
Are you
mentioned it.
sure? Because
I only mentioned it because of volume 2 being a thing that sounds like you could comfortably skip to get to 3 and get to the good stuff,
Typical
just like with
anime
JoJo.
tuber always bringing it back to JoJo.
Listen, I'm just here to
I
provide
would-
my objectively based takes, which
I
in
don't
this
really
case
need to
is to
talk
skip
about-
JoJo parts. You know, you could skip Fushigi no Shounen parts, and you could skip JoJo parts. It's just how it is.
if he really wants to be an anituber, he's got to bring up Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Listen,
I
True.
haven't done that this stream yet.
I actually don't
I'll
have
do
much to
that.
say. I don't have much to say about fun. I mean, I watched it for the first time. Was it like a year or two ago? I thought it was good. I don't really know if I would be writing essays about it, but it was good.
I'm on my like third rewatch of Hunter x Hunter. That's what I've been watching.
Hunter is based though. I could
I
write
gotta
essays
finish.
about Hunter
I
x
got to
Hunter.
finish that eventually.
Okay, so Fushigi no Shonen and About Death. Very what would you say? Anthology? Is that what you say or whatever? With these like collection of short
anthology, like a
stories.
series of short stories. Yeah.
Yep. Both of them focused on a god figure observing and or like interacting with people and their different life circumstances. Very different themes involved because it's very different like cultural views and also like goals in terms of like storytelling that's going on. Very
And time
unique
period.
experiences, very interesting, very like period focused for Fushigi no Shonen, and yeah, I mean, overall, I think like both of them are interesting in their own ways, very thought provoking in some ways. But with Fushigi no Shonen, a lot of it is more of a dice roll about it, whereas like with About Death, you're gonna have something that's thoughtful and interesting. At least for the ones we saw, Justin sounds like he has thoughts about the later ones, but it doesn't sound like it's as much of a dice roll About Death. Like you're gonna be able to understand and like, you know, probably sympathize or empathize, whatever the thighs fucking word you're supposed to use, with the like themes going on with About Death. With Fushigi no Shonen, at least for me, it feels like a lot of it's very cynical, and at times I don't get what the point was. I just don't know. Why did the bandit dude want to fucking kill people and kidnap children? Why did he have to do that? Why did you have to do that?
As you do. You know, based.
Why? I don't know. But I think Fushigi no Shonen was still interesting. I might check out the other volumes, but it sounds like I should skip volume 2. So I don't
I
know.
got this also get a review of
Oh, I
volume
think you
2,
should
by the way.
read Volume 2.
Yeah, we'll have an in-depth discussion about the Serbian abusive love story. Okay, it'll be
It'll be
interesting.
everything you wish for, Ari.
okay. Anybody else have anything you wanna comment about either of these? Any final thoughts?
I mean, I did read Fushigi no Shonen when I was reading Crime and Punishment and like taking a class on like Russian philosophy. So
That
that
explains
might
a
have helped.
lot.
Oh damn. Yeah,
So it's
I
like
mean,
Sartre and like
yeah, I mean, like I said, Fushigi no Shonen can be interesting, but maybe for me it's more of a dice roll with like how it lands it. But I feel like most of that kind of vibe for me is just like some of them I feel like it needs more time, and that's just kind of what you get when it comes with short story kind of focused things. Sometimes you just don't have enough time for it to be as satisfying as like a reader might want. Whereas with something like Tatsuki Fujimoto with his short stories, they're like a whole volume in length usually. I mean, he does have an anthology series, but aside from that one series, those were mostly, I think, just things that he wrote and then didn't publish and then at one point published together or something like that. Whereas his other one-shots are like, here's a story I wrote, a one-shot, and it's like an entire volume of this one-shot, and it's like a lot more thought out because he has a lot more room to work with. Whereas Fushigi no Shonen's like, all right, each volume's like, the first volume was like 3 stories. I think the other ones are like 3 to 4 stories each volume. And you only have like 200 something pages to work with that. So I don't know. It
Good
can
luck.
depend. You know, I mean, I don't know. I still think that they were interesting. So maybe I'll check out more Fushigi no Shonen's volumes. Maybe not. I know About Death I'll probably read through all of just because it's pretty quick to read through. So
Also Justin.
I need to see what happened with Justin. I need to see how fucked up the God character in that is.
It
I
was
need to
just
see.
it was just done really well. Like it was just done well.
What would happen if the
Yeah,
Wonder
it's like
Boy and what would happen if the Wonder Boy and the God from About Death met? What do you think they would they fuck each other over? Would they think? I feel like the About Death guy would be like, yeah, humans are pretty chill, and the Wonder Boy would be like, no, they're greedy and want to kill each other. Fuck them.
How could you like these people? And
How
just
could
starts
you do that?
crying.
The only one I ever liked was one that sang well. All the others are murderers and greedy.
They're cringe.
Cringe. How could you like them?
Hello,
So.
cringe department. These ones right here.
I don't want to say anything, but
Spoilers.
maybe I should just read up to 12.
Okay, all right. So my perspective on that will probably vastly change. We'll see. Now, that's all for this week with the Fushigi no Shounen and About Death discussions. Oh my god, we did it. Now, next week's picks are from Justin. Justin, do you know? Yeah, it's supposed to be your pick. I told you about this. Do you have your pick ready?
Yeah, I have my pick ready.
I told you about this literally a couple nights ago. We were playing Fortnite. I was like, you got your.
No, I know.
Okay,
I already
all right.
picked. Remember?
What, did you fully decide on that, or did you think of something else? So, what is your pick?
Oh.
Announce it for the stream.
Oh, I was gonna read the first 2 volumes of I Am a Hero.
Okay, that's
Oh,
your
good
final answer?
series.
You're
Yeah.
locking it in. All right, we're reading the first 2 volumes of I Am a Hero. So we're gonna be reading those.
Zero.
And we might, we'll check those out. And just a reminder, though, because that volume, the full series is like 22 volumes or something like that. Now, we're not reading... Justin has the omnibus version of it. We're not reading the omnibus versions of it. We're not reading the first 2 omnibus versions, because I think each omnibus is like 2 chapters each. Or 2 volumes each. We're reading only the first 2, like, separate volume things. So not the omnibus volume. So I'll figure out the links and I'll send them to you guys. Keep in mind too, just because we're reading the first 2 volumes now does not mean that we won't go back and continue it later if like we decide to. So just because we're reading it now doesn't mean that we won't be picking it up later. So we could potentially go back to that or any of these series actually if we end up like voting for that. I mean, most of the ones that we've been doing lately are like a one-shot deal. So we read all of the Mega Man thing for the first. Well, we're not reading the other Mega Mans, I imagine, because there's like 5 X's or whatever. So. And then the other
There's
one's
a sequel to that, by the way.
oh my god, so many Mega Mans.
That's Mega Man 0.
Oh no, it's Thunderbird. Oh look, we defeated Thunderbird.
No, that's Tech Falcon.
I got the Thunderbird card.
So I got the card. I'm not gonna use it.
I fucking hate that so much.
By the way, sorry, real quick. Justin was not here last week for Soloist in the Cage, but he was excited for the stream. Did you have any thoughts about it that you wanted to share with us?
I just really liked it. Like,
thanks,
really good.
Thanks for coming. All right, thanks everybody. No, it was really good. I really liked it.
No, that was great.
Yeah, I can't remember my notes because I was thinking about this week, but
yeah, right. I understand.
Fair.
I think that means you think Soloist in the Cage was shit, forgettable, mid. You could use the word mid.
No, I'm glad that she died in the end. I think it would have been unfitting if she had a happy ending.
That was one thing we discussed a little bit. We were like that ending was like a whole trying to be like, did she die? I mean, heavily it seemed like it implied that she died, but like it was a whole thing.
Yeah, because
like,
she left the room, so I assumed.
Yeah, I assumed it was like a symbolic kind of thing of that, but my whole thing with that was just I hoped at the very least there was some way for the brother to find out that was her sister or his sister, because I feel like leaving that unaddressed for him, I don't know how I feel about that. But I mean, it can go either way.
He's got his family now, though, is the thing. Like, he might be happier not knowing that. That seems like kind of where she was going with that anyway.
I don't know, but my whole thing was like a whole, like, she went through so much to get back to him, and like from his perspective, she's just a random woman who showed up and like met up with them. So I don't know.
Well, I thought he also just knew. I thought at the very end he was like my sister or some shit, but I could be misremembering.
But that was like a whole like thing where he's like seeing her as a sister, not really like realizing that she actually is his sister and that she's the reason why she got adopted by this other man and stuff like that. I don't know. It was the whole thing. Anyways, so that was Soloist in a Cage. The next one we're doing, and then this week was Fushigi no Shounen and About Death. So we did all those. Next week we're going to be talking about the first 2 volumes of I Am a Hero. So that is going to be. So let me just double check with people. I think Anne wasn't able to come tonight. Made some excuse before about a Christmas party, and then saying something about competitive games. I don't know which one was going on. I thought it was very weird for a Christmas party to happen 2 weeks before Christmas, but that's whatever. Next week is the 20th. Next week is the 21st. I think Anna told me before that they also won't be able to make it then, but I'm not sure. Is everybody else okay with meeting up next week as well, the 21st of December, or because I know some people are like going places for holidays and stuff. So if we're all good for that, then we'll still go for next Thursday.
It should be good, yeah.
Yeah, it should be good, yeah.
Now I have on the schedule, we're gonna meet the 21st, and then we're gonna take a week break, I think is what I wrote down here. So we're not gonna meet on the 28th.
Okay.
And then we're gonna meet on the 4th, so the week after that. And the 4th will be my pick, which I have no idea what I'm gonna pick yet. I'm still debating, but I'll let you guys know when that happens.
That's more lighthearted than all the ones we've been reading.
yeah.
I have to be the lighthearted pick, man. I got so much fucked up shit I was gonna recommend. Now you tell me I gotta be lighthearted.
All right. New game or something.
Give us Shinjo Ito. Fucking.
We're gonna read all volumes of New Game right now.
Sure.
And then we're gonna read Akunohana, and that's gonna fuck you up.
What about Old Game?
Yeah, there is no old game, okay? Only new. We do new stuff. But not New Game Plus. We don't call it New Game Plus, apparently. That's the whole thing. Anyways, thank you everybody for showing up. Next week, same time, we're going to be talking about I Am a Hero. Read the first 2 volumes in time for that. I'll figure out all the links and stuff for us in the Anime Book Club channel. Thank you so much to everybody who monetarily supports these memes. We have quite a few people who are currently monetarily supporting these in some way. We have Little Lasagna, still my only YouTube member. Okay, love you, dude. And then you have Nyan Bacon. I don't know who this person is. I haven't seen them here in this book club in ages. I don't know. But they're a Twitch subscriber for $5. Oh my God, thank you so much. And then we have 2 patrons. Aztec, good friend of the stream. I don't think he ever shows up for them anymore, but good friend of the stream. And then Drifting. Oh my God, who could that possibly be? Thank you so much to all of you for monetarily helping this up. And if you want to be one of the ones that does, we have like 7 different ways to do it. Find some way to fucking throw money in there and I'll probably catch it. Tell your grandma to shove $1 in her Apple Watch and it'll come through. Don't worry.
Apple?
What?
But more importantly than that, okay, please subscribe or like or whatever bells or whistles or whatever you can click on. Okay, do all that stuff. And if you want, you can check out the stream next week. You can even jump into these streams if you are somebody who's listening that is interested in getting involved with the conversation. We have quite a number of people now, but we're open to more people as long as you want to get engaged with it and stuff like that. So let us know, and we will talk to you all later. Bye stream. Bye stream.